Welcome to a new video in my home automation and Node-RED channel, and today, as you can see, I'm reviewing another Reolink product, and this time I'm reviewing something new. So this is the Reolink Lumus, and that's a new product that came out recently from Reolink. And well, of course it's an IP security camera, and as you can see it's a fairly small one. It is designed to be mounted close to your door because the one main feature of this, it has a built-in light in it. So you can set up the motion detection in this camera to automatically trigger the light. So again, somebody approaches your door, it detects the motion, it switches on the lights, and of course it switches on recording. And besides the usual features like the app notifications and the fact that you can view the camera feed anywhere you are on your mobile phone, it also has two-way audio. So there is a microphone. Well, supposedly that's the microphone here, and there is also a speaker grill on the outside. The one thing that you might have noticed, and it's quite unusual for the security cameras, that instead of some plugs that are usually here at the end of a small cable lead coming out from the camera, now it has like a really long lead which terminates in a USB charger. So unlike the sort of like de facto standard where security cameras are powered by 12 volt, this is actually powered by a 5 volt 2 amp power adapter, and the connector is a standard USB type A lead. I couldn't find a suitably boring footage where I could overlay the website, so let's have a quick look at it, and then so we can go through the main features. So as you can see, it's full HD recording. I think I mentioned it somewhere in the video, but it's full HD, it's 15 frames per second, so it's not a very fluent video, but you know, this is a security camera, so that's fine. So you have PIR sensor and of course image motion sensor, two-way audio, it's waterproof, and of course the headlight. That's the main feature of the Lumus. So you see the different options where you would be able to use that, and where the headlight feature becomes fairly useful. Of course I use the front door example. Full HD, the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi connection. Some of the Reolink cameras can work on 5 GHz Wi-Fi as well. This is not. It's powered, so it's not battery operated. We have night vision, configurable motion detection, and this pre-motion recording. Okay, so this is something that I haven't seen on other cameras as well. Usual features, you know, spotting the delivery man, doing it in the night, the built-in siren, I'm going to talk about that in the video, and the different modes, of course, daytime and nighttime, and we are going to see that just in a few seconds. And when it comes to notification, there is option for app notification, emails, the built-in siren, and this custom voice alerts is something that I haven't used yet. And of course there is app in all the ecosystems, recording options in the built-in micro SD card, but also possible to record on an MVR. And there is also a Reolink cloud option where the recordings are backed on the cloud. There is Google Assistant integration, which I'm going to spend a little bit more time in a future video, because as far as I know, or at least a couple of months ago, it wasn't available in all regions, for example, not in my region. So that's not something that I was able to test yet. And these are the different things that you get in the box, which I'm going to talk about in the unboxing section of this video. Before we dive into the details, let's see some sample footage. So this is the daytime now, and as you can see, I move into the camera. You can see the camera on the top left, and I open the door, look at the camera. So this is like normal daylight. And let's look at the same footage from the camera recording. Actually, the colors look much nicer than on my 3CCD, old camcorder camera. But so you can see that it started recording sort of when I sort of like halfway in the garage door, so probably about, I don't know, 6 meters away. So this is nighttime, but the lights are on, and as you can see, as I get closer, the spotlight comes on, and when I walk in, and of course there is no more motion detected, the spotlight still comes on, and you can see the recording again. This is an uncut recording, so this is the entire footage that got recorded. So there is a black and white footage, and when the spotlight comes on, it changes to color mode, and then even when I close the door, the 15-second post recording still, keeps the recording, and you can see what is happening after it, which is, not really much, but that's the post action recording. And now it is complete darkness, so my camcorder can't see anything, but the spotlight comes on. As you can see, it's a cool white light, and I go in, and of course the door closes again, and now we can see on the footage that the nighttime video is, very clear, as you would expect. There is plenty of power from the IR LEDs, and of course when the spotlight comes on, it changes to a color image again. Everything is visible, the colors are okay, the picture is not saturated, so I think it's a really good quality image. And now the last example, when I'm coming out of the door, and now you can see that, well, nothing is happening, and the spotlight comes on, and when we look at the footage, what we can see that it actually started recording, well, of course, before, so I can't see me opening the door, but you see the 5 seconds before the motion was detected and the spotlight came on. And later on, when we are going to look at the app, you will see the different, motion settings and the motion zones that I've used in this particular occasion as well. So this is the example footage. And now let's unbox the Reolink Lumus. It comes in the usual Reolink black box. You can see some specs here. You can pause the video if you want to. And some other details here. And a few more things on the bottom. But let's open it. I mean, of course, this is not the first time I've opened it. And in the box, we are getting some documentation, nice printed stuff. And, sorry, this is just like a box for all the paper documentation. So as usual, you're getting a few warning security stickers, and actually you are getting in a couple of different languages. So I thought you are getting more of the same, but it just comes in, what is it, like 5-6 different languages. You're getting a warranty card, and yep, and there is the CE documentation, again in multiple languages. That's fine. There is a drilling template for the mount, and you have an operating instruction, and that comes in 5 languages as well. It's not a huge document, and because it's 5 languages, it really just talks about the basics, but you get some ideas how you need to mount it, and then how the various parts get connected together. Okay, so probably the only thing that I would highlight from this document is there are a couple of things about motion detection and the PIR sensor. So if you want to read the details about what is the recommended mounting position and height, then maybe you can pause the video and read this page. And of course, just like in the previous cameras, there is a separate section which talks about how you can reduce false alarms and what are the most usual causes of false alarms. Okay, putting the operations manual aside, we get to the actual camera itself, and by now probably you notice that there is a big change from the previous cameras, because you have the camera unit which is physically, oops, some parts were falling out, which is physically attached to the cable which terminates in a USB plug. So unlike with most of the cameras, Reolink and others as well, that are usually operated from 12 volt, now they have moved away from that, and you are getting a fixed length cable and a USB charger for that. And besides that, we have a mounting hole, and also we have, it's not a screwed, but it's just basically a silicone cover for the micro SD card. And actually I do have a micro SD card, so let me just insert it immediately, and most probably it goes in that way. Yeah, it's spring loaded, and I managed to get it for the first time. There is also a reset hole, and I believe we are getting a tool for that reset hole as well. Okay, so I'm going to put this back, and yes, that's pretty much it. I'm also going to remove the protective film, and that's the camera. So you have the camera module in the middle. That must be the big PIR sensor. There is also a small hole in here, which I believe that is probably the microphone. And you have the illumination LEDs on the top. And the whole thing comes in this nice rounded shape. There is no other ports or accessories on the device. We have some grill for the speaker as well. And just a few more words about the specification. So it says here that it's full HD and at 15 frames per second, and the field of view is 100 degrees. So that's not an awful lot. It's not going to be like a fisheye camera, but we are going to see it soon. The night vision distance is 10 meters. There is no mention on the cable. I measured 2.9 meters, so that's probably 3 meters. I just made a mistake in the measurements. And the power is 5 volt 2 amps. So you would be able to substitute the built-in, or the provided power supply with something else if you need to. Yeah, and it also mentions here that the PRI detection is about 7 meters. So let's continue the unpacking. So I've unrolled the big cable, the USB one. So I think the fact that they have gone for the USB and the fixed cable definitely is something different, especially that if you are planning to use this camera in a place where you have already wired up. So maybe that you have a cable which is intended for 12 volts. Now you have to do something about that. I mean, I wouldn't crimp this cable and then cut it here. So you have to do some sort of adapter, which if you're planning to reuse your existing cable. But I think it would be just much easier to run this cable inside. Of course, you would need a hole which is big enough for the USB lead to fit through. So yeah, it needs a little bit of thinking. It's not like the other cameras. And if I look at the mount itself, it comes in a few different pieces. So the top part comes off, and that's where you have the 2 screw holes that you screw into your wall or whatever, and you have the drilling template for that. There is quite a lot of accessories. So there is this sort of cutout here. So if you just have a screw, just like on a picture frame, you can put it on the screw and then sort of like hang it like this. So that's one option as well. And of course, once you have this mounted, the base mounted, then you put the top part on it, and then you start screwing this on. And as you tighten, the position will also get tightened up. And you have this nut which goes on like this, and that secures onto the camera like that. So yeah, fairly easy, I should say. And also there is one more option here. You can see that you can thread a strap through here. So if you really want to, or so if you want to, you can strap it against I don't know, maybe a downsprout or a tree or something. So there are quite a few options. I think it's a fairly smart mount. Moving along, I've removed this box, and there is nothing else under this molding. And if I open the box, that's probably where I'm going to find the USB adapter. And of course, that's it. And you get a USB adapter, and you get various plugs for the different regions. So mine has a European one and the UK one. I probably haven't received the US one because this is probably like a Europe model. And then you have the power brick, which has a male USB type A at the other end. And of course you need to affix your plug like so. I have to tell you, I'm not really knowledgeable enough to tell if any of these small icons means that it's indoor or outdoor rated. There is a lot of course, the CE and then German TÜV logos on it, so it probably complies to many different regulations. But looking at the physical design, I think this is designed to be indoors. So either you get the USB lead to go into your house and then you can just plug it in like so, or you need to mount the whole thing in a waterproof box if you need to place it outside. So yeah, this is not really designed indoors. And the fact that the plug comes like this and you need to put a plug here, it's going to be, fairly, chunky box to house this power supply. Not to mention, if you're planning to place it right behind the camera, you also need space for the additional, 3 meters of cable, so everything fits inside the box. And actually, this is probably what I'm going to do, because I'm most probably going to mount it in a place where I have mains voltage outside. So I'm just going to get the mains into a box and then, improvise some sort of plug here, and then everything else is going to be sort of like sandwiched in a small waterproof box, and I would just get a grommet with the USB out, which is again going to be a fairly difficult, well, a sort of difficult task, because it's a small cable and you need a fairly big grommet to thread the USB cable through. So yeah, it needs a little bit more work than the usual 12-volt system. I picked up a fairly windy day for this review. Hopefully it's not going to affect too much the audio quality, but I have the camera mounted, and well, this has been mounted for well over a week now, and I've been using it like this. So this is our front door, which is here, and I had a couple of outlets, which you can see in the corner. I mean, not proper outlets, they were just pieces of wire, and I think originally I left them there so I can install some motion sensors, so I can turn the lights on, which is sort of like up here. And I've never finished that, but I realized this is the perfect place for this camera, because this camera has motion sensor and it's going to turn on a light, so it's technically a motion sensor. So it is getting power from there, and because it's all covered, I didn't bother to put the adapter into a separate weatherproof box, because this is never going to get rain in this place. And sorry for freehanding this, but I cannot get close enough with a tripod. And the fact is, it has a connector that way, so it's like that way is 90 degree, and this is like a straight connector. You need a fairly big box to fit everything in. And the biggest box that I had home is still not big enough for all this setup, and since this is lockdown and everything, I don't want to go to the hardware store just for this box. So this is going to suffice for the time being. And of course the wire is just like, oh yeah, it goes through here, and that's a non-working old camera, and that's my Lumus. And as I said, I use the mount and the strap to strap it on my downpipe, and it's fitting very well, thank you. So the camera is here, and sort of it overlooks this whole area where I come in, and if I come home at night where it's already dark, that part of the driveway and the way that I walk in gets light from the street light, but this gets a little bit dark, and of course this comes very handy. The light comes very handy if I need to find a keyhole in the dark. So it works, and of course it does the recording. I think you can just make the camera out in the top right corner, right over there, so you can see the live feed of myself. I don't want to talk about setting up the camera, because that's very well documented in the user's manual as well. And to be honest, it's a fairly easy process. You click on the plus button, you scan the QR code, which is the back of the camera, and then the camera talks to you all the time anyway. So there is this voice prompts coming from the camera, so you always know what to do. So you just follow the process. It's really, really easy. And once you have it set up, then of course you have the camera, and you can see the feed immediately. We got the usual controls here, so you can pause the live feed if you want to, and I think if you are on 4G, then it automatically stops after a while. You can also turn on the audio, so you can hear what's it has two-way audio, so it works both ways, so you can listen in what's happening on the other side. You can take a picture, you can take a video recording, and you can change the resolution here. So at the moment it's set to fluent, I think, and no, actually it's set to full HD now. Yeah, you can see on the top right, well, sort of to the top right, it's 2000 kilobits per second, and I switch it to fluent, then on the mobile screen it looks almost the same anyway. It just becomes much quicker, and you can turn the phone landscape, and you can make the picture full screen as well. And you also have the option to talk, and then I haven't enabled access to your camera, but you can also talk, and then there is a microphone. We have seen it on the other side, so you can see, you can hear what the you are talking on the phone. Some other features that are unique to this phone is obviously the light. So you can enable the light from here. Of course, it's very light at the moment, so I don't think you are going to see much. Maybe you can see the two LEDs light up at the top of the camera. And of course, I would have, we have seen the night footage, how much it illuminates the area. I mean, of course, the spot. Because I wanted more of sort of this area to be visible on the camera as well. So the direct light is more to here where I'm pretty much sitting as opposed to the front door. But it's pretty, there's plenty of light for me to, find the keyhole and then, get in, which is pretty much what I need. And of course you have the option here that you can trigger the alarm sound. I guess you could hear that. So it's the usual alarm sound. And most of the Reolink cameras can do that, but I don't think I've used this at all because, well, I don't think this is going to be really a deterrent for anyone who tries to get in. And at the moment, the way this camera is mounted as well, it's physically accessible anyway. But it's good for demonstration purposes and for me to test out the features of the camera. Okay, and of course you have the playback button, so you can see previous footages, and you can filter by day, and then on a particular day you can go to each of the recordings, and of course you get a playback. And you might have spotted in the section when I was looking at the web page and some of the features that it actually, whenever it senses motion, it records 15 seconds prior to that motion. So you can see that nothing really happened on this recording, and then after sort of like 10-15 seconds I start moving into the picture. So I think that works quite well, and that's definitely a useful feature. Of course you have the option here to download this footage if you want to. And if I want to go into the settings, you click on this cogwheel icon on the top, and you go into the settings. And actually this is quite new. I think when I started playing around or setting up this camera, there was an earlier version of the Reolink app, and that screen looked different. So now this screen looks slightly, it has been improved a lot. So now you can see that this is my Lumus camera, and it has a 32 gig SD card in it, and so far it has created a 4 gig recording. You can see the capacity, firmware version, build, and everything. You can name it, I just named it Lumus. And of course it's connected to my Wi-Fi network, so you can assign it to a different Wi-Fi network if you need to. On the display settings there are a lot of different options, so you can pick the default quality. If the camera is upside down, you can flip the image. And there are some options for auto flicker, day and night, but I've left everything there, so on sort of like auto. You can see on the lower right corner the camera name as well. You can also put the watermark, and then the Reolink logo appears on the top left. And you can even do a privacy mask. So if you don't want some areas of the picture to be visible, like I don't know if there would be a license plate in the frame, you can create this privacy mask, and those areas would be permanently blacked out on the recording and on the live feed as well. There are a few advanced functions here about backlight and exposure, and to be honest, I've started playing around with these, but it looks like that the auto settings works for me in all cases. So yeah, that's fine. Okay, next thing, motion detection. In my other Reolink videos, I talked about the fact that motion detection tends to be quite iffy, especially if the camera is facing to something which has, like trees and branches and a lot of moving things, and not to mention like rain when it's raining. And with this setup, I have the camera facing sort of like in. It can see a little bit of bush here, which if it grows and then there is a wind, it might be a problem. But at the moment, what I found is, it's really just only creating recordings when there is an actual motion. And when it comes to settings, you see there is a motion detection setting. And just like on the previous cameras, you can pick the sensitivity. Now here in the camera, we have two devices that detect motion. First of all, we have the PIR sensor under the lens, and we have the camera as well. And you are only setting one sort of like sensitivity option. So I'm guessing the the motion detection from these two sources is somehow blended together. It looks like that I set mine to 15, which definitely detects all the motion whenever somebody walks by the camera. Maybe if I would pick this a little bit higher, it would start detecting me earlier. I think there is an example of me, opening the door and then walking out, and it looks like that it only starts detecting me when I'm already stepped out, sort of like stepped into this pavement zone, which I've marked on the camera as the activation zone. And of course, you still have more options here to further further customize sensitivity. As you can see, you can create this profile if you feel that it's creating a lot of false negatives in the evening and you don't want to get so many alarms, then maybe you can just decrease the sensitivity overnight and then increase it for the daytime as well. I've just used a blank 15 seconds. And as I said, you can specify motion zones. So now you can see that pretty much everything which is sort of like this paved area and the mat before the door, it's marked as motion sensitive or motion zone. So when it detects motion, as in changes in the video in these areas, that would be detected as motion. I think probably the way it works, that it looks at the image, and then when it detects image, it would be only considered motion if the PIR detects motion as well, something like that. Because as I said, it doesn't create false negatives, or very, very few for me as well. Okay, that was motion detection. Camera recording, I have set the camera recording on. Of course, it only records when there is a motion detected, and you can even set it to schedule. So if you don't want to record daytime, or maybe if this is in your office and you don't want the office recorded in business hours, just like out of hours, you can set it here. And as I said, there is this option to create a recording before the motion, which is set to, I think it's 5 seconds, and then the post motion is 15 seconds, which you can customize here. So after the motion detection stopped, it will still record for 15 seconds. And the override option is just to override the oldest recordings once the memory card is full. As you can see, this is a pretty busy area. We are at home a lot of times. I'm doing a lot of work in the garden, so it does create a lot of recording. This is lockdown, so we pretty much spend our entire days here, and still the memory card only has like 4 gigs of recordings. So, that memory card is going to take a long time to fill up. Spotlight, you have the option to turn off the spotlight. I don't know why anyone would do that. I mean, then you can buy another camera which doesn't have a spotlight, but that could be, whatever reason. If you don't want in any particular time for the spotlight to be active, you can turn it off. Push notifications, so that's for example, if a motion is detected, you will get a notification on your phone. Because this camera is, inside, we have gates which are usually locked. When there is motion here, I already know about the fact that there is somebody coming, or it's me coming, so I don't want to get notifications of these. That's why I've turned off the notifications. Otherwise, you would obviously turn it on. And the same here, so I have the email alerts enabled, but I haven't configured the email server, so it is actually not sending me any emails at the moment. And you can, specify schedule here as well. And of course, the sender email address and recipient, and the email content, whether you want some text and pictures or with videos to be sent, and what is the email interval. So like if you have multiple detections at the same time, then let's say you will only get one email every 5 minutes. So if there is another motion within that 5 minutes, it just gets ignored, for emails. The siren is the audio alert which I've triggered previously. I'm not really a big fan of this, but you can enable the siren. So when a motion is active, the siren sounds immediately or automatically. And also you have the option to share. So if you create multiple accounts, you can share this camera to another account. And in advance, you have a few more features. You can create new users. You can set the date and the time manually. Of course, it would just get it, it's synced from my phone. And you can also enable whether to record audio along with the video. And yeah, and you have a small blue status LED above the camera. You can turn it off, so it doesn't draw attention that the camera is on. And of course, the infrared lights is the functionality where the IR LEDs, which are around the camera, would automatically come on when there is darkness, of course, low light condition. And I mean, I just set it auto. And of course, if there is so there's no light, then you will get the night light, sort of like the black and white image. And of course, when the light comes on, then it switches to like a color image, because then there is sufficient light for the camera. And with this, we got to the end of the settings. And there is one more feature which I failed to include in my first video and also in my second Reolink video. So let me talk about now. And here now you can see that I'm seeing the list of my devices where the Lumus is the last one. So I have the Argus 2, which is showing at my garden from the side. Yep, that's it. And oops, the other button. And then you have the gate, and I have the gate, which is looking at my gate. Yeah, fantastic. And so if you are on this screen and if you scroll all the way to the top, then you see the first image. But if you drag it further down, there is this additional menu appearing where you can set, I would say, scenes. That's the easiest way to describe it. And these are things you click, and that would set different options on all your cameras. So let me demonstrate it to you. So I think I've created the home and the away, or maybe away was default. But if I just long press on it and edit, then you can see that it shows you, well, first of all, you can pick an icon and a name, and then it shows you all your devices. And for each of these devices, you can set whether you want the push notification to be received, whether it should create recording, do an audio alarm, or do an, send an email. So you can easily create like two scenes, like if I'm home or if I'm away. And in the away, then all your cameras sort of like arm, they start sending push notifications and emails. And when you get home, you click the away, where you set all your cameras, not to do anything. So don't, maybe still create the recording. So that would be the home option, that all your cameras still do the recordings, but they don't send push notifications and they don't send you alarms. But when you are away, then you want to start receiving notifications, and maybe you also want to do audio alerts for some of your devices. So again, it's like a one-click scene where you control these key features of all your cameras automatically. And I think this is that's really nice and a useful feature. That was my review of the new Reolink Lumus IP camera. If you like this camera, I'm going to leave some affiliated links in the video description. So if you're planning to purchase, please use that. That helps me out a bit. And also there is a promo code that I was provided. So there is an additional 5% off from the price of the Lumus. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.